Hey, it's May 31st, 2023. This is Wes Fryer. I have used my field notes to sketchnote our ideas retreat today, and here's my narrated sketchnote about the stuff that we talked about. From our department retreat, we're the ideas department, which is innovation, design, entrepreneurship, analytics, and sustainability. We created a Spotify playlist, or actually Ryan, our department co-chair, created a Spotify playlist of songs that he was going to send us, and he played a little of that. We talked about favorite or most memorable concerts that we had been to. We've got a couple new members of our team that are going to be joining us this next year. It's a little unusual for a department to have a strategic plan, but we do have one. So we thought a little bit about our individual and collective aspirations, and Ryan talked about strategic iteration, that we can't, plan out 5 years in advance with precision, but we can look at how we make decisions and priorities. We talked about how we're keepers of a story and a history of our department. And so our first prompt was the first time we heard about ideas at Providence Day. For me, this was talking on the phone with Matt Scully about, I was really calling to find out about positions that he knew about in North Carolina. I thought I would be going to a higher ed position, but it turns out they had a middle school position that they were advertising for. And I guess James Edge was the one who actually came up with the idea of the idea exchange. And then they brainstormed the pillars of entrepreneurship as well as computing and innovation. Let's see. So they started thinking about this in terms of the future of computer science way back in 2016, and so told a little story of conversations with Derek, James Reeder, and Ryan. One of the favorite stories I've heard Ryan tell multiple times is his son Wyndham, who might have been in what they call TK, which is transitionary kindergarten, but the idea that he got a robot for Christmas and he's coming, and we still had a typing class at that time, and so ideas at PD has happened really fast. Brian, I think, talked about the story in 2021 of meeting James Edge, who's really a key collaborator for him. This last year, Todd Johnson and his students made a prosthetic leg. They got on national news for that, for a golden retriever that one of our faculty members has. Rebecca talked about feeling a bit left out of the initial brainstorming and development of the ideas story. James Reeder, who's our other department chair and was the department chair of computer science before ideas, teaches so many computer science courses. I mean, just a ton of them. Actually, I think that's one thing we need, is to probably share that load, maybe to a greater degree. But what a gifted teacher and leader he is. We talked about this idea that if a PD student or any student has a computer, a robot, and a 3D printer, what can they do? What can they create now? That's part of the menu that we want to try to flesh out for them, both within courses and in their own time. Todd talked about how much he enjoys the freedom that he has here at PD and in the ideas department for innovation and especially for curricular autonomy. There was a phone call that happened between James Reeder and Todd. And at that point, Todd became convinced he can do more than coding at PD, and the makerspace assistant role has been really big for him. We talked about the importance of flexibility. That's really a key ingredient to success, is being able to be flexible. We talked about how it's a safe assumption that the kids don't necessarily know what they're doing with their iPad and their computer. We used to have a lot more explicit instruction when it came to technology, and now we don't have a required computer class. It's an elective class, my computer applications class, and there's a lot of things that are basic to file sharing and file management that kids may or may not have ever been exposed to, learned how to do. So asking the question, what are we doing to prepare kids for their future? How are we doing that? That's a key and important question. We've had some folks in our department visit other schools like Cannon. They have esports. They also have welding and other stuff, independent study classes, but the structure of their setup is a little bit different. One of our strengths is being able to learn from each other. For instance, we Talked about sound engineering with our esports program and the live work that we're doing, and the need to learn together with that. I had a thought, and I've had this before, of how it's important to move towards digital portfolios and portfolio assessment. I really think that's an opportunity for our department. We do some of that in my computer applications class in terms of the Google site and digital portfolio that we create. Asking how we can connect students to their passions is really important. We don't currently really have a wood shop, metal shop. So could we have an add-on building? Could someday that be part of the vision for ideas? Imagining what our space 2.0 might look like, the next generation makerspace. Can we have room for good noise that we would have, and with those kinds of power tools going on? We talked how global education at PD has been really big, but it's kind of become a meme, and told some stories around that. The second prompt we had was share a quintessential ideas at PD moment. And so several people talked about guest speakers when the fourth graders and other lower school students came to play the games that Rebecca's kids had created. The pitch breakfast that James Edge has gone to and taken folks to numerous times. I talked about the hands-on robotics experiences of kids building, coding, and testing, and all the excitement of that happening in the idea space. I really, and I've had this thought before, but thought today about how I need to integrate the Ignite model of talks into my computer applications courses, really empowering students with more capabilities to effectively share their ideas concisely, succinctly, and with powerful images. I also thought today about inside and outside sharing, which is something that my wife Shelley and I have talked about and spoken about before, and talked about writing about. We need platforms that can really facilitate that more than just our learning management system, which is our course, focused assignment exchange tool, which we're transitioning to Canvas this year, and I think there may be some elements within Canvas that can help with that. Does our ideas name limit our integration possibilities or open the door to more integration possibilities, was a question that we talked about and considered. Kaylin is our esports teacher, and so we had some great conversations about how possibly we could collaborate around Minecraft. Some of the live kinds of events that they're doing for esports may be able to happen for Minecraft, maybe with our speed builds. He had shared several different tools that I didn't know about before that I'm going to check out, Code Combat and Construct 3, and he really liked Scratch a lot, and I guess Construct 3 could be a follow-on for high school and later courses that would really build upon Scratch. But anyway, I'm going to check those out for the intermediate coding class that I'll be teaching next year. Thinking about our makerspace, I think we need to really help build out the menu of student projects, what students can create today in the makerspace, in addition to creating with media. We talked about our idea space and sort of how it's a fishbowl, but that led to more informal classroom observation walks. Talked about how refreshing it is to come into the ideas department where there's a lot more curricular autonomy and freedom, especially if you contrast that with the rigid culture that we have in some of our other departments like the math department. For Brian, the finance class, one of the highlights of teaching that was also taking it to the People of Color Conference this last year, and they had over 500 folks in their session, and it was very invigorating. There have been a lot of highlights for the year, the hackathons that we've hosted, the film festival that we just had that Rebecca put together. Ryan talked about watching the ideas classes change, it was like a symphony of the ecology of space and how the spaces were used. I wrote down, the aspect of not having our own spaces did lead to some great serendipitous interactions and sort of collisions of ideas. But I mean, in some ways, I really miss that a lot and yearn for that space. I wrote down this about authenticating. I really want the ability to install software on my own laptop. That's a real limitation that I feel is impeding my own innovation and creativity. And I hope that can change. We talked about GitHub and how there's GitHub Classroom. None of us are using that right now, but that's a tool, especially for coding, that we probably should step into to some level. We talked about getting together as a department, or I did, getting together as a department periodically just to teach each other stuff. That's something I really yearn for and would like to see more of. I wrote down and shared that I think we should be talking about the iPad versus the laptop. By the time our kids get to high school, I really think they need a laptop to be fully capable digitally, especially from a computer science and coding standpoint. It's good that we have laptops for students to use in our classes, but I would love for us to have that conversation about the right one-to-one tool, and the one that's going to provide our students with the most capabilities and options. And then I guess this was something that was kind of negative, but we're talking about, GitHub and why, just having unfettered access to that could be problematic because some of the content that's there. Well, I mean, that's true of the internet more broadly. And I guess there was a situation with Kim Kardashian and maybe her child with YouTube. And anyway, there's a story there that's kind of about the dark side of the internet and how we need to be continuing to have guardrails and protecting students and being aware of the pitfalls, I guess, that students can fall into. Now, esports is going to occur mainly at lunch and after school this next year, but in the future, there's a possibility for having courses. The third prompt we had was, what is the asset and superpower that you'll bring to our group? I was originally going to talk about digital storytelling, but I talked about being a relational teammate and enjoying, building relationships and connections, and then on those relationships and perceptions of safety and connection, there can be all kinds of great collaboration and learning together. Todd talked about his hero skill as being able to learn new things and helping others. And I also wrote that he knows how to build Adirondack chairs because that's something I've thought about doing, and he did that at his previous school. Our fourth prompt was, what's the thing that you want to improve on behalf of the team? I talked about course design, differentiating my courses because, I have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, which is challenging having all those different developmental levels. And so I want to continue to explore gamification and badge-based learning. We talked about the importance and value of the beginner mindset and admitting that, we may not know how to do something and being able to help each other out. Ryan shared his professional aspiration as being a good servant leader for our team. And then our fifth prompt was, what do I need from the team? Kaylin talked about expressions of passion. What do we do for fun? What do we do more? That those can really lay the seeds for future collaborations. I thought that was awesome. And then I put, chances to learn from each other. I think it would be helpful and good to overall at the school work towards changing our culture of this idea that we have to go somewhere else to learn something new. I mean, that's a great thing to do, and it can be invigorating and wonderful, but it can also be great to just learn from each other and not have to travel far. We talked about needing a home base and building community and how important it is to break bread together and to build community. And so the question of, what are you passionate about? What are the things that you want to make? I think it was Todd talked about, I don't have your knowledge, that I need you. And so even just remembering to check in with each other is really significant and important. I pointed out we need more women in our department, and that overall more diversity leads to a better work culture, better collaborations, better ideas, better decisions. And so hopefully we can work towards that in the future. And then I also mentioned, I think we need to talk about perceptions of safety that we have in our space. So those were some of the ideas from the Ideas Department Retreat today on March the 31st, 2023.